Okay, I'm gonna try to make one. Laying down, my stomach hurts. We'll see how long this one is. I've been up all night long. Only because this was going. Plus, we went to the store at 6 o'clock this morning. And we still gotta go with the kids. When she gets off work. So it's gonna be one of them days. Oh boy. And so I thought I'd sit here and make one. But if I stop abruptly, I'll say thank you ahead of time. Because no telling if that's not the right one that he sits there and talks to constantly. You know, I'm not going to be able to make a 15-minute one. You know, I'm just going to have to make as long as I can. Anyway, so we went to Walmart. This morning I ordered the sodas and stuff so they could be brought here because I'm going to carry all that up there. And I know he wasn't going to want to carry all that up there. So we did that this morning, and I told him Texas won't allow food stamps to buy sodas. Just because it says they overturned it doesn't mean that Walmart or anybody has overturned it. Because I did try. So I'm gonna see the baby later and talk, you know, deal with how wonderful she really is, despite what, you know, mean things people have said. You know, you shouldn't pick on a child. That's one thing I've never done, is pick on, you know, a child. To me, they're all beautiful. To me, they're all special, you know, especially the little ones, you know. And had I done things right, education-wise, I probably would have ended up being a kindergarten teacher, because the little ones are just so cute. Or a nursery school teacher, you know. It's too late to do that now, of course, but maybe if there's a next life, maybe, you know. I just have to wait and, you know, see if there is one. You know, I don't know if there's such a thing as reincarnation. You know, I'm open to it, you know, because there are some religions that believe in that. So, you know, I just want the best for that, you know, for Hannah. Hannah will be 15 next month. Lord help us all. Of course, her mommy's got to deal with her. And she acts like a typical 14-year-old right now. Her mom's put her in cheerleading, and I do have pictures of her in her cheerleading uniform. She starts high school. You know, hard to believe my baby has got a child old enough to go to high school. You know, it's hard to believe I'm a grandmother, but I am, you know. And you know, having 3 other kids, you know, there's going to be kids that are going to be connected out there to me that, you know, aren't going to know me as grandma because I chose to put them up for adoption. Because I personally didn't think it was a good reason to abort, because, hey, you know, they didn't ask for it, but, I mean, I might have thought different if I would have been like a teenager and like it was done forcibly or something. Then I probably would have thought about it, but, you know, I was brought up that it was wrong. But in the real world, you can't condemn somebody for, you know, doing something that's their choice. So, you know, and I don't think men should be opening their mouths about that situation, because they don't know what we go through. You know, 9 months of agony, some women go through 9 months of morning sickness, you know, you know, aches and pain and back aches, and it's not easy. And then giving birth isn't easy either, because it could take up from an hour to, you know, a week. You know, although I've never heard of anybody, any woman going in labor and gonna be for a week, but it's not something that's a walk in the park. And the bigger the baby, the harder it's gonna be. And my oldest was pretty small, so therefore, when he came into the world, he came regular. The other three came C-section because they were all over 8 pounds. And my little frame of a body, because right now I'm 4'9", so I have a small frame body. So it was hard to give birth to 8-pound, 11-ounce baby, and an 8-pound, 13-ounce baby, and then I think the last one was 8 pounds, 11 ounces. And I did put the three of them up for adoption. I would rather see people that want to be parents have them than me bring them into a world where they hardly got anything, and where, we could end up homeless, from month to month. Who knows, where we'd be, And the oldest one that I gave adoption, he's, feels, he should not have contact with me or, my spouse. The second one, she does, to a point, and I understand that, she's now in the Navy, so she's, and then she's got to take care of her boys too. She has 2 boys, Dylan and Thomas, or Jason, excuse me. Thomas is part of Jason's middle name. But in the last one, I have him on Facebook, but he's so busy, And I opened up and told him, if you need any information, because eventually he's going to get married and have kids, and he's going to be a good dad. I know that, but right now he's only 21, so right now it's more, he does have a girlfriend or / fiance, and they're building their life, getting ready for their long life, and and the parents that I picked for all 3 of them very, very kept us well informed about how they were doing, because all 3 were open adoptions. They all know they have an older brother. They know they have 2 nieces. I mean, but each of them have their own idea on how they want to deal with it, and it's fine with me. Yeah, I get kind of moody come the birthdays, because I do, I would never chose it otherwise, had the situation been as bad as it was, and it was bad. Back then my spouse was drinking too much. We were going on and off drugs. Not for all of them. For the first one we gave for adoption, as soon as I quit doing drugs as soon as I knew I was pregnant. And it was like a couple months into that pregnancy, I stopped. So he's fine. The other 2, we didn't do drugs on, because by the time I had my daughter, we were clean off of drugs, because we quit in 95. But the bad thing about it, when I was pregnant with the oldest one, I didn't know I was pregnant until 6 months along. I mean, literally did not know, because I literally had a period, and it's rare, but it happens. I never knew when I was pregnant for kids. I didn't have morning sickness. I was lucky. But they're all, all of them are fine. and their kids are fine. Um, but that was my choice to choose adoption, and I don't put anybody down if they choose another way to deal with the situation that they're in. Each person has their own feeling about what they want to do, you know, and you can't condemn them. You know, I, I've done bad things in my life too. I'm not very happy, and I try to be truthful about it, by the way, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, you know. But like I said, they grew up happy. They had parents that took care of them, loved them, spoiled them a little bit. Um, and now, 2 out of 4 have kids. So, if I gave somebody advice, I would tell them you have to think about it yourself, about what you want to do, how you feel. If you don't feel like adoption's the route and you feel like the other one is the route, don't feel condemned because you had to do it. A lot of people can't handle being pregnant, or they're not in the right situation. But I would highly recommend look into open adoption, but you can also get closed adoption still too if you want it. But for the kid, I wanted them to know where they came from. I wanted them to know that they have a little bit of Hungarian Hungarian in them, and Indian in them, and Irish in them, and German in them, and whatever else my spouse is part of. In fact, when my daughter was born, they couldn't take her for 2 weeks after she was born, so they had to stay in California because they lived in Michigan. So, they had to stay 2 weeks in California until the Apache Nation, the Cherokee Nation, and the Chickasaw Nation all said, okay, it's fine. Because they don't have as much, as enough of each of them to, claim them as their own, even though they're still part Native American. You can see the Native American in my spouse. You can see it in his grandmother. His dad, you can see it a little bit. And his grandpa, you could see a little bit of it, But, like I said, it's a choice, and I'm going to call this, my choice was adoption, choice is between one or the other, I'll figure out how to write it out, but, it's, like I said, it's everyone's choice, I don't expect a 12-year-old to, to go and give birth, because it's unhealthy for them to do that, because they're not, their bodies aren't caught up. They still have their kid bodies. Puberty hasn't really set in yet. So, if God forbid this ever happened to any of them. But it's happened, somebody will get a hold of a 12-year-old and do that, and they end up pregnant. Then I would suggest that parents, seriously make sure, the child is not in danger before you make that decision to let them have that child or something, because there's also trauma that has to do with that too, and you got to think about that too. So, like I said, it has to be up to the individual that is dealing with the situation. I know a lot of people are debating, and I get their point, but I also get the point of the people that are for it. It's a necessary evil, because there's women that, it'll cost them their lives to go and try to give birth. Or, their embryos end up in their tubes, or, something is not right with the baby, or the baby is going to be stillborn when it comes time to give birth. Many women have given birth to stillborn babies, and you can't leave the child in there. So that's why I said it's a necessary evil. It is. So I guess the topic is about whether to choose adoption or abortion. Like I said, it's up to the individual. My advice is to seek out your own feelings and see what you can deal with. And don't worry about what everybody else is telling you. Because in the long run, it's the woman's decision, what they do with their bodies. They have to deal with the 9 months of, being uncomfortable and eating to, it's not comfortable to be pregnant, trust me. Anybody who's ever been pregnant out there knows what I'm talking about. It's not comfortable, especially in summer. Believe me, I was full-fledged summer with my son. I didn't have him until August. And he was supposed to be born on the 28th, but he was born on the 8th. We won't go into how that happened, but he was 20 days early. Anyway, thanks for watching. You can comment down there, and you can be for, against it.
Insurance.